Hey guys, and welcome to Evolve Today. Today we are going to talk about how I found freedom in an unfree world. I discussed this topic already in one of my videos, but just wanted to go more in depth and help you guys understand what is going on here. So this is the book notes of how I found freedom in an unfree world. And this book was written in 1973, but the things he taught in the book, they still hold true to this day. Okay, and Harry Browne, this I would recommend this as one of my top 5 books on personal development, no doubts, hands down, because this book is not very philosophical in a way, but it does have his own philosophy. But the things laid out in this book can save you so much of heartache and pain. It's amazing how this book was made. So let's look at the notes about this book, right? So there are traps laid out, okay? There are traps laid out which keep us from more freedom. There are hundreds and thousands of such traps, and it is very easy to get caught up in a trap. So the most books which deal with freedom, they generally present us with some kind of idea or a plan or a concept which you need support of other people. Okay? The best thing about this specific book is you won't have to convince anyone else of anything, and all the ideas in this book can be acted upon by yourself. Need to come to terms with so the only thing you need to come to terms with is most of the world will remain unfree for the rest of your life and rest of their lives, and that is okay. That is okay. Okay, even in an unfree world when everyone around you seems unfree, you can be free. That was the biggest and the most uplifting thing I had read when I was going through this, because I wanted to change. I wanted to make a change, and I wanted my best friends to change, other people to change. I wanted other people to see what I could see was wrong in the world. But I was like trying to drag people along, and all I got was resistance, people getting angry at me, people fighting with me, they stopped talking to me, and all these things. Then I realized its best way is to just change myself and not really depend on others. Okay, that is the best thing about the book. So let's go into more details about the traps and what are those traps basically. So the first trap, okay, the very first trap Harry Browne talks about is identity trap. Okay, identity traps. Okay, so what are identity traps? Harry Browne talks about it, and this is like the first and the most common, but the most important trap, identity trap. Okay, so there are mainly 2 traps. The number one trap is the belief that you should be someone other than yourself, and second, the assumption that others will do things in a way you do. Very important to remember. I fell into the number 2 trap so many times. Let's go into detail. So we need to understand we are different from everyone else in the world. We all are different. We have unique likes, dislikes, different attitudes, different understandings, different experiences, and our ways of interpreting are also unique. So what you would consider to be logic or common sense will vary from others, right? Nowhere ever have I seen people break red lights in Australia. Maybe once or twice. It was a rarity. Never ever saw anyone overtaking from the wrong side or going in the wrong way. That was like absolutely no. I've never ever saw anyone taking a U-turn in the middle of the street and going the wrong way. But it is a common thing in Southeast Asia where I live. And it happens every single day. Every single day I see some person just taking a U-turn in the middle of the street and going in the opposite direction. For me, for most of the people who lived in Australia or in the West, they would say that is so dangerous, and it is logic, it is common sense. But you need to understand this is Asia and it's different. What is logic and common sense to me or you guys will not be logic or common sense to other people. Many things, especially when I speak to my parents and their ideas, many things which are logic or common sense to me, my parents don't understand. Very common, very, very common. Okay, so what most people assume that all people want same things, or they should want them. Okay, I'm guilty of this myself, and I tried to change my friends when I saw that I don't want to be in the corporate sector. So I was trying to help make my friends see that too, that they won't be really happy in the long term staying in the corporate sector. But it's a kind of a trap I fell into. Another thing, when Harry Potter was famous, everyone was like, you should love Harry Potter. Why don't you like Harry Potter? I like a couple of those movies, but I don't like all the books. I felt like a couple of movies were great, a couple of books were great. I don't like the whole series. And everyone was like, everyone should love Harry Potter. It's a trap. It's an identity trap. Okay, so we are in this identity trap when we overlook all these differences between myself and others. And this can get in the way of your freedom. So the others do to you, and you also do that to others. So we need to be mindful of both the situations, right? Both of them. Okay, now let's go more into detail. Okay, so identities. So we use things in a way that's consistent with its nature. Okay. For example, expecting knowledge of chemistry from someone who has never seen a test tube, it is a waste of time, to be honest. Neither can you assume that someone will do what you've decided is right. Okay, what you think is right doesn't mean that everyone else will do the same thing. Okay, and we really can't control the natures of other people, but you can control how you deal with them. No matter how many times you tell people, don't cross the red light, don't cross the red light, don't cross the red light, some people will do it, but a lot of them will not follow it. So how do we deal with it? How does the government decide to deal with it? They pose fines for crossing the red light. Okay, so really you don't control the natures of the people, but you can control how to deal with them. This is one example. Second thing important to understand is truth. You really want to see things truly so you can deal with them properly. Really important, because a lot of times we don't want to see the truth because the truth is a bit uncomfortable. Sometimes it is very uncomfortable. And for example, I really didn't want to know how my company did sales because I somewhat felt they were like a bit unethical in their way. But the more I found about it, the more I felt they were more unethical than I thought it actually were. And it kind of made me a little bit depressed. But then I was like, okay, this is the way corporate does, and maybe my ethics and their ethics are different, and it doesn't mean I have to stay in that same organization. I just change the organization, right? So we have to know the truth if we want to deal with the truth properly. It's very, very important to know the truth and to understand what is actually going on, right? Very important to understand what is actually going on. Give you an example. First impressions are generally very different than later impressions. It's difficult because we view things subjectively, and our logic may not always be flawless. Okay? Many times I meet people and I have a different first impression, but when I get to know them, I see I have a completely different impression of them. Because when there's so many things going on our mind at the same time, then we meet someone, we have to make quick split judgments, quick judgments. And because of that, our logic may not always be flawless. We will have prejudice, we will have some kind of past experience, and we would just say, okay, this person looks this way, or they behave this way, they might be this, or this might be that. Okay. So in order to deal with the things as they are and get predictable results from them, we need to learn to see things as they are. So for example, another important thing to consider is your application of the truth might be different, right? Really might be different. You might see something in a certain way, and other person might see something in a certain way. That's totally fine. So another important thing to consider is happiness. Like a lot of people confuse happiness with short-term dopamine hits versus long-term happiness. So there are like some things you can do for a short-term happiness, something for long-term happiness, but I generally believe it is, what we really want is long-term happiness. Okay. So what Harry Browne says is happiness isn't a new car, fame, a good marriage, wealth, or a warm blanket, right? It is what you feel inside of you as results of the things that happen to you. A positive decision is one in which you choose to maximize your happiness Example, you might be happier going to a movie. A negative decision is in which you choose among the alternatives to minimize your unhappiness. Very important. So, a free man generally spends most of his time making positive decisions and choosing among attractive alternatives. For example, going to a movie. Okay, you might want to see a certain movie and you go to the theater. That movie is not there, and then you're basically making a negative decision. You're choosing some other movie which you actually think, okay, you're choosing among the movies which you actually didn't want to see, and decide, okay, I choose this movie. So you're kind of trying to minimize your unhappiness because you're not really happy with the movie you want to see. The best thing you can do is just walk away from the theater and go to another theater. Probably there are so many theaters in your city, or just go another day and watch the movie which you want. But it is also important to consider what is short-term happiness and the long-term happiness. For example, I enjoy beer, I enjoy wine. A couple of them here and there is great, and I feel great. I enjoy it. But if I do that every single day, if I drink like 6, 7 of them every night, it's going to destroy my health in the long term. Right? So in long term, it's not the best thing. In short term, you can have 6 beers, it might feel great. But in the long term, it's going to destroy your health. So in that sense, we have to be careful and we have to make positive decisions which will maximize our happiness. Identities of others. Very easy to slip into identity trap when dealing with other people. So easy. I've fallen into it so many times. Okay, when you assume someone will do the things or see the same logic that you see, that is when you fall into the identity trap. You can decide for yourself which of the people you have met have the most to offer you, or you're going to meet has the most to offer you, and then develop relationships based on compatible values without trying to change others, right? A lot of times people make friends. Let's say I love watching soccer. I have a lot of friends. We discuss about soccer and everything. But then if they talk something about politics and they might have different viewpoints, and what other people do is they try to change their viewpoints, right? Like one of my friends, I also always say, I really don't have much interest in politics. But he's like, how can you not have interest in politics? It's like, and he would keep on telling me stuff and I will keep ignoring it. And eventually he gave up. So this is where it is, right? We had a common interest, which is soccer, and that connected us, right? But then he was trying to change my political views, which we don't have compatible values with, right? Simply our values are not compatible. I don't really have too much interest in politics. That guy had a lot of interest in politics and he kept trying to change me. And then I had to say, bro, like, I'm not really interested in politics. I'm great. I'm happy when we have conversation about soccer and fun, and that's great. But anything other than that, this is what happens generally when people make friends or they go into a relationship, they have some compatible values, but then they try to change other people. So it's better to find people with some compatible values, okay, and then just base your relationship based on those compatible values, right? If you love playing golf, find people who play golf. You make relationship based on golf. You can have some other values too with that, like maybe working out or something, but you don't try to change the political opinion of your golf partner, or you don't try to change the religion of your golf partner. He's just your golf partner. This is the trap. Okay, now the most important thing is to avoid the trap. Okay, very, very important. So you need to understand we are a unique individual and we are different from all the other human beings, and no one sees the world the way we do, and no one can dictate what your identity should be. Very important. No one can tell you what your identity should be. So each individual is acting from his or her own knowledge about what he or she believes will bring him or her happiness. So everyone is acting from their knowledge that will bring them happiness. So we have to treat things and people in accordance with their own identities in order to get what you want from them. Understand? This is very important. And it's unrealistic to expect one person to act as someone else does. Right? For example, my sister and myself. Even though we are grew up in the same neighborhood, same people, our behavior is so different, so drastic. Okay. And it is, and my parents always kept telling me, why your sister does things that way, but you don't do things right. Or sometimes they will say, oh, she does things that way, why don't you do things that way? Okay. I'm like, it's unrealistic to expect one person to act as someone else does. It is simply unrealistic. So we all need to remember that we view the world subjectively and colored by our own experience, interpretation, and limits of our own perception. It is not essential to know the truth about everything in the world. When I found about this, I'm like, I need to know the truth about everything. I need to know the truth about food, politics, biology, communication, dynamics between men and women. I want to know truth about everything. Right? If you go down that rabbit hole, it just goes for infinite. It goes on and on and on and on. So it is not really essential to know the truth about everything in the world, which is the most pressing matter, and the things which are most important to you. Yes, you should ideally try to know the truths. So instead, what you do is, does your identification of things lead to the consequences you expect? For example, a lot of people think that if they eat a lot of fruit, they will not gain weight. But there are certain fruits, if you eat a lot of them, you will gain weight. But people say, eat fruits and vegetables, eat fruits and vegetables. All the time, we have been told that. And it is not really the truth. The truth is there are certain fruits which have high glycemic index, which will make you gain weight. And there are certain fruits which will not make you gain weight as much. And generally, vegetables are always better to eat than fruits because their glycemic index is lower. That's one truth which I found out, and I was kind of shocked. And then I realized, okay, this belief, this identification was like eating fruits giving me the consequences of what I wanted. I was just eating fruits, a lot of them, and I was still gaining weight. And I'm like, why is this happening? And then I thought, okay, I need to find more information on this, and real honest information. And then I found about glycemic index, and there are certain fruits which make you gain weight. There are certain fruits which will help you maintain your weight. So I just chose different fruits. So if it does, whatever belief you have or whatever way you identify things, if it does help, what you perceive was true enough for the situation, that's great. If it does not help, you need to look at the matter again. So be skeptical when generalizing. I mostly suggest avoid generalizing as much as you can, but always be skeptical when you're generalizing. Okay, gather more information if need be, but you don't have to go down the rabbit hole of gathering more and more and more and more and more information. Gather some information, implement it, and see, does it give you the consequences you expect? Okay, so you have to discover and accept yourself fully. That will give you the conviction and courage to be free. This is the most important thing to understand, is to accept ourselves fully, with our flaws, with our biases, with our prejudices, whatever. We need to discover ourselves and accept ourselves fully. Once we accept who we are fully, that will give us the conviction and the courage to be free. I had to accept completely that I didn't want to be an engineer anymore. I was an engineer for a long time, for 9 years. Okay, I worked in big multinational corporations. But then I realized I can't see myself doing this for the next 30 years of my life. I just can't. So I had to accept fully that in my heart I was not an engineer. Okay, it was difficult. I had to have difficult conversations with my dad and tell my colleagues that I'm leaving, and it was all quite difficult. But at the same time, this acceptance gave me the courage and conviction. Okay, I know I don't want to be an engineer for sure. What is that I want? I did a lot of tests. I took a lot of personality tests, values tests, my disc profiling, different profiling, and a career assessment tests, and I found what I want to do. So in this way, you have to discover and accept yourself fully. So go to the seminar, go to the retreats, take some time off, be alone by yourself. That will give you the courage to be free. Okay, so this was the first part, which is the identity trap. Okay, the second trap is intellectual trap. Do you always wonder why you let others get the better of your emotions, or you try to control and suppress your emotion and it doesn't work in your favor? And why your emotions are a very important guiding system, and if we ignore some aspects of the system, it can backfire on us. So this is the second part of how I found freedom in an unfree world. And today we are going to talk about is what Harry Browne calls as intellectual trap. Okay. So the very first thing to know is to be free, to become free, we must know what we are doing and why we are doing it. What we are doing and why we are doing it. We have to become conscious, we have to increase our awareness. And a lot of people, including myself in the past, we have lived in a haze where everything is just going and we are doing things. We don't know why we are doing it and what we are doing and why we are doing it. We are just doing it. So many times it has happened. Okay, so what is intellectual trap? The first thing you need to know is to be free, we must know what you're doing and why. And for this, I'll give you a short example. It's like a lot of my friends, they were like FIFA World Cup, okay, and they have Cricket World Cup or any kind of World Cup. They'll say, oh, we should watch FIFA World Cup because everyone is watching. We should watch Cricket World Cup. Everyone is watching that World Cup. We should watch it too. But if you don't like that sport, why would you watch it? Right? People are just doing it because everyone is doing it, and they don't actually know why they're doing it. And to be honest, most of the World Cup matches are not very exciting, and still people are doing it. So there are many instances of where people are doing some things which they don't really know why they're doing it, and they might not actually enjoy it, but they're still doing it because everyone else is doing it. That's one point. The other point, very important point about intellectual trap, is that it is the belief that your emotions should conform to a preconceived standard. So, for example, let's dive a little bit deeper into this and let's see how important it is. Let's consider this. When you try to deny your bad feelings, quote unquote bad feelings, such as fear, jealousy, hate, guilt, anything like that, or when you try to hold back tears. When we try to deny these feelings, we're actually suppressing a very important guiding systems which we have, which tells us what will make us happy and not make us happy. But a lot of people, they do is, I shouldn't be jealous because my husband, girlfriend, or my good friend got a promotion. Even if you have that thing of jealousy. Oh, I shouldn't feel guilty because I should feel guilty because I had 3 scoops of ice cream or I had 3 beers. I should feel guilty when you actually don't. So what we're doing is, when we try to suppress these feelings, we're actually suppressing our guidance system, which in turn makes us more like a robotic person who doesn't really have any guidance system, don't have the feelings. It doesn't mean that we act on this feeling. It doesn't mean if you feel guilty, you get mad at yourself, or you feel jealous, you start cursing yourself. You don't have to act out on these bad feelings, but to deny them is a trap. So when we try to deny good feelings of enjoyment or something that is frowned upon, for example, enjoying street food on a corporate trip. So many years ago, I went with a lot of people to Thailand on a corporate trip, and we all were having fun and we were enjoying it. And so I said to some of my friends, some of my colleagues, okay, let's go outside and eat some street food. And they were like, not really, and all that. And for a fact, I know a few of them were actually looking up street food on internet before going out there. But because they were around the senior professionals, and they didn't want to look unprofessional, so they never ever stepped out and tried street food in front of their friends. And they tried street food in their off time. So this is like when we're trying to deny our good feelings or enjoyment of something that is frowned upon. Maybe there were like a couple of people in the senior management who frowned upon eating street food, but actually most of my colleagues enjoyed street food. So that's a kind of a trap when you're denying good feelings or enjoyment. For example, modern pop music, right? When I was growing up, I played guitar, I still play guitar, and then a lot of my friends were into metal and rock music, and sometimes I would listen to some pop music and they're like, why are you listening to this awful music, this pop music? Do you actually enjoy it? Like, there's no quality, there's no class in this music. I'm like, I enjoy some aspects of pop music. I was trying to suppress that, and then one day I said, bro, to be honest, I enjoy some aspects of pop music. It doesn't mean that I enjoy every aspect of pop music, but I enjoy some aspect of pop music, and I owned it, and I said, I enjoy this. This is who I am, and if you frown upon it, it's your problem. Okay, so this is one important trap. So this one of the biggest ones I see, the aspects which affects a lot of people, a lot of people, is that you believe you should be happy simply because you are doing what you have been told will make you happy. Simply by doing what you have been told will make you happy, you should be happy. For example, a few of my friends were working in Germany at that time, and he got an option to be promoted, right? So among the three, two people took the promotion. The third one said, bro, I'm not going to take the promotion just for a few €100. I just don't want that extra responsibility. I'm happy, I'm earning good money. It gives me freedom. I have less responsibility. I have more fun. I want to enjoy. And the other two people who actually took the promotion, they were like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? Like, you should have taken the promotion. What are you doing? You should have taken the promotion. You're giving up on money. You're giving up on money. And the thing is, after a few months, the people who took the promotion, they were like, bro, you made the right choice. You made the right choice by not taking the promotion. These few extra euros we are making, it's not worth the stress, man. It's not worth the stress. I wish I shouldn't have taken a promotion. Now, you see, these people fell into the trap of that taking a promotion will make them happy. They will earn more money and make them happy. But actually, it had the opposite effect. And they were more unhappy. And they wanted to go back. This is one of the key reasons. A lot of people think moving to a first world country will make them happy. A lot of my colleagues moved to United States, Australia, different countries in the UK, and they were happy for maybe 6 months to a year, and they really missed their family, they really missed their home country, and there were some aspects of the country they didn't like in United States you have to drive a lot, there's not so much public transport, so there are many things which they liked and they didn't like, and they were thinking, oh, I'm going into a first world country, so I should be very happy living in this first world country. But actually, they regretted moving to a first world country. So think about it, because I lived a long time in Australia and then I moved to Southeast Asia, and I'm much more happier here. Even though this country has its own problems, I'm still much more happy living in Southeast Asia, and plus I get to travel around a lot. So that gives me more enjoyment. So another important point to consider. Final point is, intellectual trap is an attempt to regiment your emotions so that they will react to an intellectually determined standard. Very important. Very, very important. It's basically is like you are in military or you're in like some strict school and they tell you, don't do this. If you enjoy eating ice cream, you should feel guilty. You should feel guilty. And you try to regiment your emotions because you ate a lot of ice cream, that I should feel guilty. So with experience, like with meditation and all the things I've done, read different books, I realized that emotion is an involuntary response to something that happens. Right? We can't just turn it on and off. With more practice, with more meditation, you will have a window to engage in the emotions, but the emotions will still be there. They will still be there, but you will have a window, choice, and more awareness to not to engage with that emotion. But that those emotions will be there. And my meditation teacher, he always said that your emotions are natural. They will be there. Don't try to suppress it. Don't try to push them away. Don't try to suppress it. It's like a beach ball. You have a beach ball. You put it under the sea. You're trying to hold it under the sea. You can hold it for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, and then your arms will start burning and you leave, and the beach ball will just go up and hit you in the face and you will fall back into the sea. That is how emotions are. So you see your emotions, they're like a beach ball, and you're like, okay, it's coming to the shore and it will go away eventually. It will just go away. Very important point to consider. So one key point that Browne makes is that we can't find happiness by doing the things that others have said makes them happy. Okay, that might make them happy, but it doesn't mean that it will make us happy. Very important. Nor you can find it by telling yourself that a good, moral, or a rational person should be happy doing a certain list of things. This is so common, right? Like a lot of my friends who were in Germany, and they lived in an area where a lot of people went to opera or classical music, and they went to these concerts and everything, and these guys tagged along with them. And I was like, bro, I've never heard you listen to classical music. Like, why are you going and tagging along with them? It's like, oh, here all the people, like the most rational and the good thing to do is to listen to classical music and go to classical music concerts. And when actually that person never actually listened to classical music at all, and they probably didn't enjoy it at all. Okay, and later on he said, oh, I'm enjoying it, but I'm saying, do you enjoy it as much as rock music? And I could see from his face that, he enjoyed rock music much more than classical music. But he was telling himself that to be a good or a rational person, he should listen to opera and he should listen to classical music. That's what he was telling himself. So that is the important aspect of the trap, intellectual trap, because we are doing things that others say that makes them happy, but not necessarily will make us happy. Very important point. Very, 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 very important point. So in conclusion, we must observe and take seriously our emotional reactions. Very important. Must observe our emotions and take them very seriously. However, that does not mean you're slave to your emotions. That does not mean you act on your emotion, or you're feeling angry, you just burst out, or you're feeling guilty, you start cursing yourself, or you're feeling jealous, you start, reprimanding yourself that you have these emotions. Or you don't mean you act on it right away. We accept the emotions. They are there. We don't deny it, we don't suppress it, but we acknowledge them. Very important to acknowledge them, and those will act as a guiding system, as a GPS system for your happiness. Very important. So, key point here is we choose not to deny emotions. We choose not to deny emotions. Emotions are important. They're like a guiding skill, and we don't deny them. So if you have had any experiences like that in your past and in the future, please post them in the comment section below. And I would like to know if you know someone who's living an intellectual trap, or you have lived an intellectual trap. I would like to see some comments in the comment section below. And if you like this video, please like and share with some other people whom you think might benefit from it. So sometimes we feel that we shouldn't have done something. We reflect on some action we took when we were in strong emotions, and we reflect and we think, I don't know what I was thinking then. I don't know why I did that. So there are some few clear reasons why we do such things and how we can avoid making such mistakes where we give into these emotions and get run by them. So that is what Harry Browne calls as emotional trap. So there's one thing important to consider, because Harry Browne says that it is important to acknowledge our emotions, but it is very important not to fall into them and be controlled by them. If we get controlled by them, that is when we fall into the emotional trap. Let's get into it. Okay, so what is an emotional trap? So emotional trap, it is a belief that you can make some important decisions at a time when you're feeling strong emotions. When we feel strong emotions, our thinking is usually clouded. And when we are feeling strong emotions, we are less likely to recognize all the alternatives and consequences. Many things have happened such like that in my life, where I was feeling something very strongly. I got into a fight, I said something bad to someone, or I texted something bad to someone, and the later day I regretted it, and it was just not something that I should have done. So we all have done something like that when we were feeling strong emotions, and we said something or did something, and then we later on regret it, saying or doing those things. So it is very important to understand that in such states, when we are feeling strong emotions, it is most likely not the best thing to take any decisions. I'll give you an example of an expanding cycle, which Harry Browne has mentioned this in his book, and it's very clear. So it's a story about a woman. So what is an expanding cycle? Before we go to the story, just let's get into what is an expanding cycle. So some people don't want to take the time to recognize all the considerations involved. So they just get into it and then they do something that it leads to something else, then it leads to something else, then it leads to something. So it's like a cycle which goes on and on and on and on and on. So now the problem here is, so let's take the story of this moment. So a woman who married a man who was exciting but incompatible, right? So she just married and thought, oh, he's so exciting. It's so great to be with him. He's lovely and all that. He's adventurous. And she married that man just on the basis that he was exciting. And then they were drifting apart. And then she thought, okay, maybe having a baby will bring them together. Again, in an emotional state, she thought, so she had baby with him. She had children with him. And few more crises down the line, some hasty decisions, all emotional decisions. She decided to leave the man and whom she had 3 children with. She had no skills and was totally dependent on the man for child support. And later down the line, she regretted making that decision and ever getting married to this man. So this is where one emotional decision leads to another emotional decision, which leads to another and another. And in the end, we are in a very bad cycle. And we have to be aware and get out of this, or else we just fall into the trap and this trap continues. So let's talk about what is the trap. What is the essence of this trap? So in the trap, it's like the trap is typified in the assumption that one's feeling of the moment will be permanent. It's very important to understand, because at this time, a lot of us feel, okay, this feeling will be permanent, when it actually isn't. But we think and we believe and we feel that it will be permanent. But it's not. With everything in life, eventually that will pass away. So because of these feelings, and we feel that we will feel the same way, this inspires actions that produce consequences that still have to be dealt with after the feelings have passed. Okay, so sometimes you might have a fight with someone you love, someone close to your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or someone at your work and something, and you had an argument. And a week down the line, you realize you shouldn't have said that. You said some very hurtful things, or you texted something very negative or hurtful. You shouldn't have done that. It's just not something which you're proud of. Okay, but at that moment in time, you felt a certain emotion. Maybe it was anger, jealousy. You felt guilt, or you felt you were wronged. Could be anything. Okay, you felt that emotion, and you felt that it will stay with you, and you acted on it. So I know few times, like a lot of my friends, we went out on a vacation or somewhere, and the next time, like, man, we had a fantastic vacation, let's do it every year at this time. And one of my friends was like, man, let's do it everywhere this time. You guys come or don't come, I'm gonna organize it. Whoever comes, it's great. Okay. And he said that, and he promised it to all of us in that moment where he was feeling excited and pumped up, and he just promised us. And next year, nobody turned up. We all had something to do, and as a promise, there was just one guy, him, and there were just 2 guys, and 2 of them went on a holiday. Well, they could have had more fun, but in that sense, he made a promise, and then he regretted it later. For example, you might see something very exciting. Like, I know people who buy cars on a whim. They buy electronics all the time. One of my friends, he bought like a $3,000 latest TV because he felt super excited watching the TV. And after a few days, it was like, man, I don't know why I bought this such an expensive TV. It's $3,000 plus it needs maintenance, right? This is where we get into these emotions, and we think that these emotions will be permanent, and this thing clouds our judgment. Okay, very important to understand. So this is like a back and forth between intellect and emotions, you need to understand that intellect and emotions both are essential. Okay, so you have to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Very important. See this point. You have to know what you're doing and why. So the emotional traps blinds us to what you are doing because you can't see the consequences clearly. So when we are in a very strong emotional state, when you're like super, super excited, we're not really seeing the consequences in the long run. Okay. And the intellectual trap cuts us off from what the why is. The why connected to our actions, why we're doing it. So when our plans have produced what we wanted, you can disregard your intellect, relax, and just feel. Okay, so if your what was clear, why you're doing something, okay, why you're doing it's very clear, then you can let go and disregard your intellect and just feel relaxed, right? Because let's say you choose to go to a spa. You thought about it, you planned it, you said, okay, I'm going to work very hard this week, and at the end of the weekend, I'm going to go to a spa and completely relax. Okay. So when you go to the spa, you let go of your intellect because you've planned it properly. You have considered the consequences. Okay, it's going to cost me like $50, $100, whatever. And then when you're in the spa, you just let go. You just relax. Disregard your intellect. You just feel, you just relax. And you enjoy the moment. So you'll be able to act spontaneously within that context because you have eliminated the possibility of bad consequences. You know there are no bad consequences. It's just gonna cost you some money, and that's well worth spending. It's well worth spending on yourself. For example, a lot of people love to drive and love to drive at high speeds, but driving at high speed in the traffic is dangerous and risky. Plus, you can get fines and all that stuff. But if you want to have this thing satisfied, you can go to a racing circuit. Okay, proper racing circuit. Get your proper gear on, train yourself, and then you can drive at high speed in a circuit, in a proper lane. Or you can go to, there are many places where you can drive supercars or bikes on a circuit and enjoy it very much. Okay. So this can be satisfied by doing that. Okay. I even know people who go out in the night and drive because they want to just relax and drive freely. But I still do not recommend doing that at high speed. But yes, you can do that too. Or just going to a roller coaster or to an amusement park and go karting or something, which can satisfy your drive, your need of driving fast or excitingly or whatever. So in this way, we can use our intellect to eliminate the possibilities of bad consequences, and then we can enjoy fully with our emotions. This is the most amazing, wonderful realization I had, because one side people would keep telling me, more spiritual side people keep telling me, don't enjoy your emotions, don't indulge in your emotion, don't do that, don't do this. And I felt like, am I not going to enjoy my life? I'm just going to be like this here, because I felt like I'm here on this planet to enjoy these experiences. But on this very spiritual aspect, I was going on down this path of meditating, going to yoga retreats and all that, meeting spiritual people. And they were telling me that, let your emotions go. Don't feel like, okay, if you feel them, but don't. They had the similar message, but they said you cannot really enjoy it. It's temporary, it will pass. But I wanted to have that experience. I wanted to enjoy it. And that is what this whole experience is all about. So think about in the past or future, anything like that when it has happened. Okay, so let's go a little bit more detail about when we are in the trap. So when we are entangled in the emotional trap, so what you can do is you can recognize and respect your emotions. Okay, you recognize that you're having an emotion to drive fast. You want to enjoy the thrill of driving. You recognize and respect your emotions. You don't try to suppress, you don't try to ignore it. You say, okay. And then you create plans to satisfy them. Okay, I'm gonna go to the racing circuit on Saturday morning or whichever is your free day on that morning. Okay, I'm gonna book it, and you create the plan to satisfy that, and that allows you to experience that. Okay, and you always allow for changes in you as well as in your world. No plan is like 100%. Like, let's say you booked in your go-karting thing, and you realize, okay, I actually don't think go-karting will be that fun. I actually want to go on a circuit, which will be more expensive, but it will be more satisfying and more fun for me. So I want to go on a circuit. So it was like, okay, that's cool. Okay, so you cancel the plan of go-karting and you go on a circuit. When you plan these, you're not likely to get entangled into emotional traps, right? Very important. So whatever emotions you feel or whatever exciting things you want to do, you plan it in a proper manner, then it'll be less likely you will get entangled into an emotional trap. So this was all about emotional trap. We will discuss the next topic after that.